Services Group. We do begin with that call today from Goldman Sachs to avoid Apple, to sell it, even as the stock has proven to be one of the market's best bets and currently sits not too far away from its all-time high. John Najarian, to you first. It is your biggest position. Is this the right call from Goldman Sachs reiterating to get out of Apple? All right, we're not hearing John. We'll work on that. Steve Weiss, you own it too. You've trimmed a little bit of it. What do you make of this call? They say we see Apple's recent stock performance and absolute trading level as unsustainable and would continue to recommend that investors avoid this stock.
I did trim some a number of months ago, but yet it's still my biggest position. It wasn't at the time I trimmed it. Look, to me, Apple is the market right here. The stock does not deserve to be where it is, but neither does the market, neither do a lot of stocks. Let's not forget, they've had, before COVID, flat earnings for 2 years in a row, flat revenues for 2 years in a row. So that's not a company that deserves multiple expansion by a factor of 2. However, the market's looking at it as glass half full. I believe you're in front of the company's biggest product launch ever, which will be their 5G phone. So the market is forgiving a lot of the sins that COVID has cast upon it and even before. So, look, if you're looking at purely does it deserve to be here in a microscope, just looking at Apple, no. But you can make that case on anything. So I'm not selling any. Let me take that back. I may trim a little if next week the earnings blow it away. So right now I'm sticking with where I am.
Tiffany, you own it as well. They cut the price target to $299. That's nearly $100 below where it is now. That's from $263. So they think the stock may appreciate, at least to their price target, what have you. They forecast their calendar year 21 earnings per share for Apple 16% below where consensus is. They expect late 2020 product demand results to begin to support their thesis. They don't expect the short-term numbers to provide much in the way of incremental data to either support or refute their sell call. But they do think that the stock performance is unsustainable, that you need to avoid Apple. It's such a controversial call for anybody to come out and say avoid what has been one of the market's best stocks for years.
Yeah, so before we even get nerdy on the metrics of Apple, let's stop for a second and think about who are Apple's competitors. Nobody. They figured out early on how to create a cult following and how to connect their customers to every single aspect of their lives. And, there's a reason why Warren Buffett has such a big position in Apple. We've been, owners of Apple for, years and years, and we've been adding to our position. Again, I really feel like as we're talking about these big names, including Apple and very high valuations, we really can't rely solely on the traditional metrics that we use to evaluate companies. We're going to have to figure out. We're going to actually have to consider the time that we're in, and really consider the fact that with a company like Apple, no one has been able to do quite what they've been able to do.
Yeah, John, we got you back. As I said at the outset, it's your biggest position. Sell Apple. I mean, there are a lot of stocks out there, even some of the others of the big five and maybe the big 10, if you will, out of growth tech that may be worth taking a look at to sell. You don't hear too many people coming out, if any, and saying sell Apple.
No, you don't, Scott, and you don't for exactly the reasons that Stephen Weiss said at the top of the show. When you've got something as big as 5G coming out here, Scott, I can't understand the call. As you and I talk all the time, when people either are afraid of holding on to a stock, that can be a good thing. When people decide they want to take profits, that's always a good thing. But the question is, if you're taking those profits, A, where do you go with the cash?
Right.
Because cash gives you nothing. And what stock in the tech space, which we all agree is still one of the hot spaces, what stock in that tech space do you replace Apple with, Scott? Do you go into Amazon harder? Do you go into Microsoft harder? Microsoft, great numbers last night. A little soft today, 2% down today. But, fantastic numbers out of there. If the call was let's rotate out of Apple and overcommit some of that capital to Microsoft, I'd get it a little bit more, but I don't see anybody with that 5G potential out there in the future just ahead of them. Literally, Scott, just over a month out when they're going to announce the new phones.
But what if Steve Weiss is right, though?
Why.